All right, everybody, we're going to get started here. It's a little bit after 8. So good morning. I'm Rachel Ivanovich, for those of you who don't know me. I decided to put these Friday morning Q&As together so that I can answer any questions that people have. I've been answering questions pretty much. I've been on the phone nonstop for probably the past 3 weeks. So the objective today is to hope to provide some answers and resources for individuals and business owners. So I don't know who out there is a sole proprietor, independent contractor, or if you have a business entity, be it a multi-member LLC or S corporation. But we're going to go through some slides, and then I will answer questions. You can type them into the chat. My associate's going to make sure I get those questions. So the 3 topics that I'm going to cover today are, I'm going to give you an update on economic impact payments, because I know a lot of people have questions about those. Talk about tax deadlines and what has changed with the tax deadlines for 2020 filing season. Then we're going to talk about economic help for businesses and what the updates are. It seems like things are changing at a very, very rapid pace. Therefore, I'm going to continue to provide updates with the latest. So what is relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow or even this afternoon, as IRS is putting out guidance, and Department of Labor, SBA, et cetera. I'm going to talk about economic impact disaster loans, Paycheck Protection Program, and then the other loans that the SBA is offering. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the unemployment benefits that are available to self-employed individuals. That was passed through the CARES Act, which was passed on March 27th. They're calling this the pandemic unemployment assistance. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So first of all, if you are interested in what the latest and greatest is, I've provided some links here. This Zoom call is being recorded, and we will upload it to our website if you'd like to reference it after the Zoom call. But I always check the source for my information. So IRS has a website that has Corona relief information. They update it a couple of times a day. So I provided the link for that. Same thing with the Franchise Tax Board, the Employment Development Department, and the SBA. So I've included these, and I have other links within the presentation for your that you can go to get information and be up to date on what's going on. So first of all, we're going to talk about economic impact payments. So please cross out from all of your memory banks stimulus payment. It's not a stimulus payment. A lot of scammers are using the word stimulus payment, and a lot of people, especially seniors, are being taken advantage of right now. The IRS is only going to be using the terminology economic impact payments, or EIP. So please be aware that the IRS will not be emailing or texting you for information. These payments will be going out within the next 3 weeks. They keep saying the next 3 weeks. So I do think it's actually forthcoming. There is no action needed. These are the $1,200 payments per individual and $500 for dependents, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. So there's no action needed if you filed for 2018 or 2019. If you haven't filed for either of these years, please be sure that you do so. There is a way to file a simple return. If you know of someone who did not have a filing requirement, for instance, maybe an elderly parent, it was determined this last week that if you're a Social Security recipient and you did not file a return because you didn't have a filing requirement, that the economic impact payment would be directly deposited into your bank account where your Social Security goes. So there's no need for you to file a return if you strictly get Social Security. If you filed a return in 2018 or 19 and received a direct deposit from the IRS, your economic impact payment will be directly deposited into your bank account. If you did not, if you owed money, or if you didn't include a bank account number, you will be able to go to a direct deposit portal that the IRS will be launching soon, that you can enter your information if you'd like to receive your economic impact payment sooner rather than later. What the IRS has said is that there will be letters going out in about 3 weeks that will be outlining where your check went and how much the check is for. So if you do receive correspondence from the IRS within about 3 weeks. That is a legitimate notice from them letting you know where your payment is going. The tax deadline that changed just last night or yesterday is that the IRS has allowed second quarter estimated payments to be paid in July rather than in June. So no money is due for either the Franchise Tax Board or for the IRS until July 15th. So you can pay, they will take your money. I'm sure they would be happy to have your money. However, there's no penalties or interest on first or second quarter payments, or if you have a balance due for your 2019 return, that's not due until July 15th of 2020 either. The practitioner priority service has been shut down with the IRS. Therefore, my tip is if you do receive a notice, you can still send it to your tax advisor. It is pretty much impossible to get through to the IRS or to the Franchise Tax Board these days. Therefore, you can set up an online account with the IRS if you need transcripts or any other information. The Franchise Tax Board has something called the MyFTB account. If you don't have one already, you can set one up in case you want to access your tax information online, because there really is no way to get through to them at this time. If you have notices or any sort of, if you're paying on a payment plan, everything they've said has been frozen until July 15th. However, I've had clients who've contacted me because they have had money taken out of their account. So hopefully they will get a handle on that in the near future. Okay, so what I've been talking to people about over the last 2 weeks are, one moment, sorry, wrong way. I've been talking about the economic help for business owners. So if you haven't already applied for a Paycheck Protection Program or for an economic interest disaster loan, today is the day to do so. If you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, today is the day, April 10th, that the banks are first allowing independent contractors to apply for the PPP loans. I'm going to go into how to apply, how to calculate the numbers that you're going to need during this call. So just hang tight. First of all, I'm going to talk about the economic interest disaster loans, and that's a typo. It should be economic injury disaster loan. That comes with a forgiveness or a grant of $10,000. Then I'm going to talk about the PPP loans. I wanted to say a big shout out to our city. Thank you so much, City of Carlsbad. There's a moratorium on business evictions, but you do need to make sure you reach out to your landlord and let them know you won't be able to pay your rent if you're in that situation within 10 days of the rent being due, and make sure you do that in writing. Also, City of Carlsbad, thank you. They've given us an additional 60 days to pay business licenses. If you don't live in Carlsbad, do check with your city about the laws for your individual city. I'm then going to talk about payment relief, some other payment relief for current SBA loans, and then additional loans that you can apply for that the SBA is calling bridge loans. All right, so the first loan that you can apply for, the economic injury disaster loan, plus the $10,000 advance, which is a grant. This is available for independent contractors, businesses. When I talk about businesses, I'm talking about incorporated entities such as corporations, S corporations, LLCs with multi-members. If you have an LLC and it's just you, the IRS considers you a disregarded entity, so you would apply for the loans under the rule of as a sole proprietor. I've included the link to apply for this. You do apply for this loan on the SBA site. It's a 30-year term loan, and I've included the interest rates there. It's 3.75% for businesses and 2.75% for nonprofit organizations. They are deferring payments for 1 year. However, your interest does continue to accrue, so if you can make payments on those loans, I advise doing so. There's been a lot of questions. I've applied for this loan. I haven't heard anything. You have to keep in mind, everyone's applying for these loans, so please be patient. Give them some time to figure this all out. There is a 3 to 6 week turnaround. I've had people who've applied for loans a couple of months ago. They haven't heard anything, so just hang tight. Believe me, everybody's contacting them right now. If you applied for this loan and you did not see the section for the $10,000 advance, it was probably prior to the time that that was available, so you may want to apply again. The $10,000 grant, what is part of the economic injury disaster loan application, and your business had to have been in operation in January 3rd of this year. So if you started a business in February, then you can't apply for the $10,000 grant. So just some things about loan interaction. A lot of people have been asking me questions about how do all these loans interact with each other? Can I apply for both of them? Can I apply for unemployment and the loans and so on? So I'm going to go into that. So let's just say that luckily you get your economic injury disaster loan today, and you use that to start paying for your payroll and your health care costs, being the premiums, your utilities and rent. And then you also apply for your PPP loan today. You can't get forgiveness on the PPP loan for any cost that you've used with your disaster loan. So just keep in mind, keep really good records about what you spend the money on. I'm sure the accounting community is going to come out with different ways to keep those records. I've considered opening a separate bank account for each of the loans, just so that I know where the money is going. You may want to keep different accounts in QuickBooks if you use QuickBooks, or setting up different spreadsheets so that you can truly track the costs of where your proceeds from those loans are going. Any applications that have been submitted for this loan after March 29th, 2020 do include the option to request the $10,000 advance, the grant. So like I said, if you applied for this prior to March 29th, you may want to reapply to request the $10,000 grant. One thing that people have been asking me is, can I get the grant if I don't qualify for the loan? And the answer to that is yes. I don't know what they're using to give the grant to some people and not to others. However, they do say that you can get the grant even if you don't qualify for the loan. If your business is less than a year old, you still can apply for this loan. And if you haven't done so already, I would advise doing so. Some other details about these loans. Again, I included the link for those of you who didn't catch it. It's on the SBA website. I've had questions from sole proprietors and some self-employed individuals. What do I use? I don't have an EIN or a tax ID number. Please use your social security number to apply for this loan. If you do have an EIN or employer ID number, use that instead. The numbers that you're going to need when you apply for this, it's better to start these loans online if you have all the information in front of you and available. Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling to get the information and your session might time out. So you definitely want to know what your gross receipts were for 2019. If you don't know what that is, that's before expenses. So pretty much all of your deposits into your business bank account, that would count as your gross receipts. The other number that they look for when you apply for this loan is your amount of cost of goods sold. So let's just say you make candles. That's the cost of your wicks and the jars and the wax, etc. It's not your operating overhead. Last piece of advice for this is please be patient. They're processing so many loans, and it's nearly impossible to get through to anybody on a phone line. So be patient. Do check your email. I've had a couple of clients who've received follow-ups from the SBA asking for additional information. All right, so the second program that is available. This program was created under the CARES Act, which was March 27th, they passed that law. So banks, as you can imagine, are scrambling. They're still figuring out all the details around it. And not all banks have the same, it's just everywhere that you apply, they have a little bit of different rules. So my advice to you is go to your bank where you have your business bank account. This loan is available for sole proprietors, if you file a Schedule C, for self-employed individuals, businesses, incorporated businesses, LLCs that have multiple members. Again, like I said, if you have an LLC and it's just you, you're going to be using your Schedule C from your tax return. This loan and program is also available for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So as I mentioned, The best bet is to go to your bank account, your business bank account. I would go to your online portal, log into your account, and see if they have their program up and running. I have had a lot of clients call me and say their bank's not ready yet, and that is absolutely true. So many of the banks aren't ready for this program yet, even though they said they were going to be rolling out this program last Friday. As of today, April 10th, both self-employed individuals and business entities, so corporations, S corporations, et cetera, are eligible to apply for this program. However, like I said, some of the banks are not ready and some of them are already maxed out. So it really is frustrating. And we're going to provide more resources as other banks become available to work with clients that don't have already bank accounts with them. This is a loan with a forgiveness portion. It's a 2-year term at a 1% interest rate, and they're saying that you don't need collateral. So if you're applying for this and they're asking for your assets, et cetera, you're probably on the wrong website. They will be deferring payments for 6 months. However, interest does accrue on these loans. The loan forgiveness, a lot of people are asking me how the loans will be forgiven and when. So it's up to the individual lender to forgive these loans. So up to 100% of your loan proceeds that you spend after 8 weeks. So you get your loan, let's say next week, 8 weeks thereafter, you can apply for loan forgiveness with your lender. So my lender is Chase. I'll be submitting all my documentation to Chase. The qualified and eligible costs are payroll costs, which are wages, tips, other compensation, health insurance premiums, and retirement benefits. If you own a building, the payments for interest and will be also included as part of eligible expenses. If you pay rent, your rent will also be included, as will utilities. And people have asked me, do phone bills count? I would say yes. Do internet bills count? Yes. Now, that's just my interpretation. However, if you consult Schedule C, the instructions, it specifically lists those under utilities. So I would say that probably, yes, we could count those. These eligible expenses are for contracts or leases in place as of February 15th of 2020. So if you started renting something in March, then you probably won't qualify. One of the caveats of this loan forgiveness is that you maintain your employment levels and that you don't cut the wages, the level. So if you're paying someone $45 an hour, clearly you have to continue paying that amount. You can't just all of a sudden say, well, I'm going to be paying you minimum wage now, even though, and keep you on payroll. There is a cap on wages of $100,000. So let's say that you are an owner of an S corporation and you are also an employee because you pay yourself wages every month and you make $120,000. You can only count $100,000 of that W-2 amount for the loan forgiveness. Just one more time, so to reiterate, any advance that you receive from the economic injury disaster loan, so that $10,000 grant, if you do receive that, that's going to be subtracted from any loan forgiveness under the Paycheck Protection Program. So you can't double dip. You can't get the $10,000 grant and get the loan forgiveness under the Paycheck Protection Program, is my understanding. So a lot of people are asking, how are these loans being forgiven? So like I was saying, you need to use the loan for eligible expenses during that 8-week period after your loan's origination date. And they're going to be forgiving amounts up to the loan principal, tax-free. And what that means is, typically, if let's just say you have credit card debt and you make a deal with a credit card company, and let's say you owed $20,000 and they say pay us $5,000 and they forgive $15,000, that $15,000 typically would be considered cancellation of debt income. Under the CARES Act, they've said that this is not going to be included. So if the loans are forgiven under the PPP loan program, you will not have to include this in income. Again, I've listed these eligible expenses for you here: the payroll costs, health insurance premiums, then state and local payroll taxes, but not your federal taxes will be included. And then again, interest payments on your mortgages and rent and utilities, as long as you had a contract or lease in place before February 15th of 2020. To reiterate about the loan forgiveness, this will be reduced if you cut hours for your employees or you reduce the compensation of your employees. You can avoid this reduction in the forgiveness if you stop making cuts right now and you rehire and reinstate wages as of June 30th of this year. So this is a really great program. I would advise everyone to try to apply for this if you're a small business owner at this point. I'm going to talk a little bit how to apply for it and where to apply for it next. Oh, actually, first of all, if they don't forgive your loan, you do have 6 months to a year to repay it. They will be deferred, and the interest rate is capped at 4%. What I've heard is that it will be set at 1%. So there is a little bit of conflicting information out there. The maximum loan maturity is 10 years from the date that you apply for the forgiveness, but you can pay it off as soon as you have funds to do so. There are no prepayment penalties on this loan. My big advice is don't try to call your bank. I've had clients try to call the bank to figure out how to apply for this loan. They've spent hours and hours and hours on the phone and haven't been able to get through. So my advice is to get your documents together before you start to apply and go to your online portal for your business banking to apply for this loan, and be patient. Please be patient. The necessary documents that you're going to need to apply for this Paycheck Protection Program loan are gross receipts for 2019. So make sure you add up all your deposits if you're not using QuickBooks. If you are, then just print out your profit and loss statement for 2019 because you will need your gross receipts number. You also will need to know what your monthly average payroll costs are. And this, they've determined, can be trailing, meaning you can use 2020 numbers. So basically from now, count 12 months back, or you can use your 2019 numbers, which it really depends on when you paid more wages. I would look at those numbers to see what's more beneficial for you and your company. If you're an incorporated entity and or if you are a sole proprietor and you pay payroll to employees, make sure that you have your payroll returns ready to upload before you start this process, because you will need to upload documents when you're applying for this loan. So the forms that you'll need are your Form 941, and there are 4 of them. Those are your quarterly wage reports. Your Form 940, that's an annual form, so there'll only be 1 of those. Your Form W-3, which is the summary of any W-2s that you filed for the year for your business, and then your DE-9, DE-9Cs from the EDD, and then any payroll journals. My advice is to use your 29 payroll returns because they've already been filed. If you've already filed your first quarter of 2020 payroll return, you could use that as well. If you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, and you do not have any employees, you need to use your Schedule C, and you need to have your bank statements available for 2019 and 2020 to be able to document what your gross receipts are and what your net draws were. One of the questions I'm getting is, how do I calculate my average monthly payroll cost? And this is what I've been advising based on different guidance I've gotten I've been doing all this continuing education I can. So what they're saying is, for businesses that are incorporated or have a business entity, so let's just say you have a S corporation, corp, or LLC, you need to get your W-3, which is again your summary form for your W-2s, and use your box 1 amount. You're going to divide that by 12 to give you your monthly amount of wages paid. If you have a 401k, you're going to want to add 1 month of the deferred compensation. So make sure you take that amount that's coded with a D if you're paying 401k and add 1 month of the deferred comp to your payroll costs. If you have a SEP IRA, and I know a lot of S Corp owners and LLCs do, make sure you're taking 1/12 of that as well, because that's included as part of payroll costs. If you're paying monthly health insurance premiums, make sure you're including that as well. If your costs went up for your monthly health insurance premium in 2020, make sure you use the bigger amount. If you're a sole proprietor, you're going to need your 2018 or your 2019 Schedule C. Line 31 on your Schedule C is your net profit. So that is what you made after all of your expenses. Divide it by 12. That will give you your monthly amount. Even if you didn't draw this amount out of your business, use this amount as your monthly payroll cost if you're a sole proprietor. The other things you need to add to this are 1 month of your health insurance premiums. And if you make SEP contributions, make sure you add 1/12 of that as well to your payroll cost. What I've noticed for a lot of my sole proprietors is that if they do have employees, make sure you're using your line 26 amount on your Schedule C, that's your wages. Divide it by 12 and add that to the amount that you calculated in step number 1. If you pay health insurance for your employees, you're going to want to add their monthly health insurance cost to that as well. Again, we're recording this call and these slides will be on our website after this if you need to go back and reference this. SBA is also offering bridge loans, and they also have a small business debt relief program. So the bridge loan program is available to any business that was in operation before March 13th of 2020. And you can apply for this through your bank or credit union. The terms aren't as great as the PPP loans or the economic injury disaster loans, so I would apply for those other two first. However, just letting you know that these are also available if you do need money to continue your business. They're saying that it's taking 45 to 90 days to get approval on these. And then if you've already applied for the economic injury disaster loan and then you receive it, you can use that to pay off this loan. The debt relief program that the SBA is offering is basically for anyone who has or had an SBA loan prior to the pandemic. Let's just say that you applied for a loan last year and you were making payments on it monthly. They are saying that they're going to be covering all fees, principal and interest on those existing loans for the next 6 months. But my advice is for you to check in with the lender on that just to make sure that they're actually doing this. One of the biggest questions I'm getting, in addition to the PPP loans and the other loans that are available, is about unemployment assistance for self-employed individuals. The EDD, if you go to their website, I've included some really small links there for you. I apologize, they're so small. You'll be able to access those on our website. But the EDDs is said they're still sorting out the details. Brand new program. Typically, if you are a sole proprietor or if you're self-employed, you do not qualify for unemployment, the typical California benefits. However, this is a different program. They're calling it PUA, PU benefits. They're payable to you if you don't qualify for the regular unemployment insurance benefits in California or another state. This does include all business owners or self-employed individuals that, and independent contractors. I've included a couple of links there for you if you want to go read more further details on this. I'm assuming that they're going to get this program up and running hopefully next week. This will cover you for 39 weeks of benefits, and the federal government is, under the CARES Act, is going to be paying an extra $600 benefit per week to all wage earners and to self-employed individuals, unless the money runs out, which I hope it doesn't. Be patient. There's a lot of people looking for money right now. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. I'm going to look at the chat line and answer any questions about these programs. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. And if I can't answer your question today, I'll be sure to follow up with you either on the phone or with an email to make sure your questions get answered. I did want to quickly mention a couple of other programs that were included under the CARES Act that are kind of not getting any attention because everyone's looking for the PPP loans or the economic injury disaster loans as their only available relief. However, there is something that is available that was made available under the CARES Act called the Employee Retention Credit. And basically, if you do not qualify for these forgivable loans that I was talking about above, you may be eligible for a credit on your payroll taxes. And what I've been talking to a couple of other CPAs about is this might be more beneficial to small businesses who have a lot of employees who are, let's say they make minimum wage. So maybe restaurants and they have multiple employees. If they have experienced a 50% decline in gross receipts or they're shut down due to government orders, this is a credit for each employee of up to 50% of their qualified wages. So basically that means you get a $5,000 credit per employee. So this might be a better program for some business owners. You may want to have your tax advisor calculate what makes more sense for your business before you jump and apply for these forgivable loans. This credit does apply to wages paid between March 12th and December of this year. So it could be substantial for business owners who have a lot of employees who make lower wages. The other credit that a lot of people haven't been talking about is the employer credit for sick leave and paid family leave. Make sure that if you are a business owner and you are paying your employees sick pay, that you are aware of this credit. You are eligible to apply for this on your 941, which is your quarterly wage report, and they've also come up with a Form 7200 that you can send in right away to get some relief, some money back from the government. Self-employed individuals are eligible for this too. However, you're going to get this on your tax return for 2020, so you'll want to reduce your estimated tax payments for 2020, which again, like I said, are not due until July 15th. This too shall pass. So I'm going to go through some of the questions that people have. So from someone is saying, if we are using trailing payroll, we might not have W-3 box amount for new employee in January 2020. So basically what you're going to do is I would take the amount from your W-3 and I would divide it by 12 and use that amount. And then clearly you know what the average monthly payroll was for your employee, your new employee for 2020. And you will want, I'm assuming that you have payroll journals, and I would add that to the amount from the box 1 of your W-3 to get your average amount. Hopefully that made sense. But basically, you're going to want to just average out your payroll. Second question, I still don't understand the 10K loan forgiveness and PPP amount or forgive. So what they're saying is that they're not going to give you a $10,000 grant and then forgive 100% of the PPP loan. Let's say that you borrow $40,000 under the Paycheck Protection Plan. They're going to subtract that $10,000 advance from the other loan, and you're only going to get loan forgiveness on $30,000, and you're going to owe $10,000 on the PPP. So you just can't double dip on both of them. Okay, next question. I have 3 businesses, an S corporation, an LLC, and an 11-month-old C corp. Can I apply for each company? My understanding is yes, you can apply for all of your business entities because they each have different costs. What I do know about the PPP loan is that you will have to type in the fact that you are a business owner on all 3 of those companies. So I don't know how they're going to award the funds. However, the PPP, you're putting in your gross receipts and you're putting in your monthly payroll cost. So I'm assuming they're going to determine it based off of that. Next person asked, rent and mortgage during what months are eligible? So it's going to be forgiveness for 2 months. So it's 8 weeks of forgiveness if you paid it once you get your loan. So let's say you apply for the PPP loan and you don't receive it until May 15th. You use that to pay your June and July rent. And those 2 months will be forgiven. Same thing with mortgage interest. The thing about mortgage interest that you have to keep in mind is your mortgage payment clearly is more than just the interest. They're not going to be forgiving the part that's attributable to principal. They're only going to be forgiving the interest portion. And if you prepay payments, they're not going to forgive the prepayments on those. Let's just say you pay 3 months of your mortgage. They'll only forgive the current months. So next question. If our bank's doing nothing, not even taking applications yet, and we've only banked with one bank for 30 years, is there another bank we can try? Absolutely can try another bank. I can't guarantee they're going to help. I did find a bank this morning, and I can send that out in a follow-up email after the call is over. Next person asked, let's see here. Those are questions where people are chatting. Do I apply for both loans or only the PPP? If I don't need this now, but may in next 6 months, do I not take the funds and just wait? My advice is, so I've applied for the PPP. I want to make sure that my payroll is covered. That's what this loan is for, is to cover your payroll. We don't know how long this is going to go. We don't know, let's just say that right now you still have money coming in and you're still working. However, if you have clients, I've had clients tell me already, I finished tax returns for them, I've finished some consulting work for them, and they've said, I'm so sorry, I don't have any money to pay you. So even though I'm working and billing, I may not be able to collect. So therefore, I would apply for the loan. You don't have to use it, and you can always pay it back if you don't need it. Are there any more questions? Does someone want to unmute themselves and ask a question?
I just sent one in chat.
You just sent one in the chat. Do you want to repeat the question?
Well, if you apply for unemployment and you were approved, and then you applied for PPP, but you haven't gotten that, and you haven't even gotten the unemployment yet. Once you receive the unemployment, do you need to cancel that and then start your payroll again?
You need to keep yourself on payroll if you're going to qualify for the forgiveness on the PPP. Keep in mind that you can take the loan. They may not forgive it if you're receiving unemployment, is my understanding.
So can you cancel your unemployment if you haven't
I would.
gotten the PPP yet? So what my plan was to use unemployment for the month of April because I don't have the PPP, and then cancel it and then start my payroll using, if I get the PPP, I was going to use that to do payroll in June and July, and that's like 8 weeks, and then just I only do 2 payments,
Right.
And I just do okay, and that would work. Okay.
I think using common sense is probably the best in all of these situations. They're not going to give a lot of double benefits, and if you feel like you're double dipping, you probably are, and it's probably not going to be allowed.
Okay. And if you don't, you just have to pay the loan back with
Correct.
interest. So whatever is not in their mind eligible, they'll just won't give you credit for that.
Exactly. Because it is up to the lender on the PPP loan to determine forgiveness. If they determine forgiveness, my understanding is the SBA is going to then pay them to cover that loan that they gave you that they forgave.
Okay. And I had one more question. For unemployment, I had heard, and I'm not sure, that you get your regular unemployment through the state, and the federal was going to kick $600 more on top of that. I don't see that at all. I haven't received anything. I've received the state.
Yeah, that is my understanding as well. However, I think the federal government, and the way that I've understood it, is that the government will be allocating money to the states. And so you'll be receiving that $600 in addition to what the state typical benefit was.
But the state isn't sending that out yet, probably
No.
because they haven't got me. Okay.
No, not yet. Does anyone else have a question?
Rachel, I do. So Lisa and I are an LLC, and we do take owner's draws. Those owner's draws would be covered under the Paycheck Protection Program?
Yes, yes. So if you're filing, like we talked about, if you're an LLC and you're filing as a disregarded entity, that means you file a Schedule C with your 1040. The owner draws that you take, or if you're an LLC and you take draws and you file a 1065, then yes, you'll be using those draws as your monthly payroll cost.
Thank you.
You'll want to have your 1065 available or your Schedule C available when you apply for the loan. Make sure you have those ready to upload, because they will require that you upload documents when you apply for the loan. The other things that you potentially can upload are bank statements showing deposits and draws.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think Ken Arajema, he put in the chat line to everyone that Gusto Payroll will provide 12 months average payroll and partner with your bank to get a if you can't get a PPP with the bank. Thanks, Ken. Another question is, I've personally loaned my company money to pay April bills while waiting for the economic injury disaster loan assistance. May I reimburse myself for the loan I made to my company from those funds? My understanding is that you cannot, that you need to be using those funds for expenses going forward. However, I believe that's only the $10,000 grant. My understanding is that you're not supposed to be using the economic injury disaster loan funds to consolidate debts. However, I may be wrong on that. What are the banks getting out of this for doing the loans? That is a good question, and I actually have an answer to that. I know they're getting a specific percentage. It's not a very high percentage. If you want it, I'll email you after to let you know exactly. But they are getting a fee for each of the loans that they are making. It's not a very high fee though. And then the next question is there any type of state benefit, or are there loans available? As far as I know, the pandemic unemployment assistance is what the state's providing. In terms of loans, I haven't seen anything, but I can research that for you. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't have any that I see in the chat line, but I want to make sure I answer all of your questions today.
Hello, Rachel. It's Olga Mintz.
Hi, Olga.
Hi, I have a question. Can you file the tax for 2019 now and pay, not to pay until July 15th?
Yes, absolutely. You can file your return right now and not pay till July. That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rachel,
Yes.
a question about 401k, SEP, IRA. If we pay directly out of the business account to Fidelity, where the SEP, et cetera, are set up, but we don't have it come out of payroll, how do we classify that in quick?
So if it's a 401k, it needs to go through payroll.
Okay.
If it's a SEP IRA, then it can go directly to Fidelity. But
And
the
what about-
401k is deferred compensation, and that needs to run through payroll.
Okay, and what about Roth?
Roth IRA, you pay out of your individual bank account, and that would then go, if you took an owner distribution from your corporation to your personal account, then you pay it out of your personal. And you do have until July 15th to fund your 2019 Roth.
But can those get used as part of the calculation for the 2.5 times, or is that on the forgiveness end?
I don't know if that really if the Roth counts as part of payroll costs, but you might as well include it, take a month's worth of it. I don't see why not, if they're saying that you can use retirement benefits and you're self-employed.
Okay, but if we made a contribution to SEP to cover 2019, and that's not in payroll, it was directly from the business bank account, then we can use
You can take a 12th of that, yes.
Okay.
I've had someone ask me about info on any banks that can process PPP without an account, that Mission Fed does not participate. I will get that information out to everyone. I do know there are a couple of banks that are available, and I also know that a couple of them already are full. They're not accepting any more applications, but I'm sure there are going to be other banks that participate. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome. I don't have any more information. If you'd like to email me any follow-up questions, I'm happy to research the answers for you. And as things change, we'll be providing more information next Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. So if you have questions, please send them to us. Here's our information right here. You can email me at rachel@elmtax.com. And we've been posting updates on our Facebook and our Instagram.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rachel.
Have a great week, you guys.
Stay safe.
You too. Stay healthy.